The council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive hall, each one shouting over the others. At the center of it all sat the Vrax's chair, her insect-like body clicking with frustration as she tried to restore order. "Please, honored delegates," she said, her translator converting her chemical signals into words everyone could understand. "We must address the mining rights dispute between the Korath Empire and the Thessian Collective." The shouting grew louder. A massive reptilian Korath delegate slammed his clawed fist on his desk. "Those systems belong to us by ancient right." Across the chamber, a Thessian floated in her methane tank, her tentacles writhing with anger. "Your ancient rights mean nothing. We discovered the minerals first." The Vrax chair's antennae drooped. This argument had been going on for 3 hours with no progress. She turned her compound eyes toward the human section of the chamber, where Ambassador Minjun Park sat quietly with his delegation. "Ambassador Park," she said, relief obvious in her tone. "Perhaps humanity could offer a mediation proposal?" The chamber fell silent. This was how things always worked. When the council could not agree, the humans found a solution. They had done it for 80 years. They were patient. They listened. They understood everyone's concerns and found the middle ground. Minjun stood slowly. He was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes that had witnessed decades of galactic conflicts. His deputy, Hai Wan Choi, looked up at him with concern. On his other side, Security Chief Da Un Song watched the chamber carefully. "Honored Chair," Minjun said, his voice calm and clear. "I have a statement to deliver." The Vrax chair nodded eagerly. "Of course, Ambassador. Please share your wisdom." Minjun took a breath. Around him, his entire delegation stood as one. The movement caught everyone's attention. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all diplomatic negotiations within this council. We will honor our existing defense treaties, we will maintain our embassy. But we will participate in no further mediation, arbitration, or negotiation of disputes." The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the translation devices seemed to pause in shock. Then chaos erupted. "What?" the Korath delegate roared. "You cannot do this! This is unacceptable," the Thessian cried. "Who will resolve our disputes?" "You have responsibilities," another delegate shouted. The Vrax chair stood, her wings buzzing with distress. "Ambassador Park, surely you cannot be serious. The council needs you." Minjun gathered his papers calmly. Heiwan and Da-un moved to flank him. The rest of the human delegation formed up behind them. "We are completely serious," Minjun said. "This decision is final." "But why?" a small voice asked. It came from Sira, a young delegate from the Quillen, a peaceful trading species. "What did we do wrong?" Minjun's expression softened slightly when he looked at her. "That is for the council to determine." He walked toward the exit. His delegation followed in perfect formation. Behind them, the chamber descended into complete disorder. Species shouted accusations at each other. Some demanded the humans be sanctioned. Others tried to rush forward to stop them. Da-un stepped between her ambassador and the approaching delegates, her hand raised. "Please maintain distance," she said firmly. They left the chamber. The doors sealed behind them with a heavy sound. Inside, the chaos continued to grow. The Vrax chair tried repeatedly to restore order, but no one listened. The Korath and Thessian delegates screamed at each other. Other species took sides. Old grudges surfaced. Threats were made. "How dare they abandon us?" one delegate said. "After everything the council did for them," another agreed. But some sat quietly, thinking. A few delegates looked uncomfortable. They remembered things they had said. Things they had done. In the back of the chamber, Sira sat at her small desk. Her people, the Quillen, were not powerful. They had no military. They survived through trade and diplomacy. And that diplomacy had always depended on human mediators to protect their interests against larger, stronger species. She pulled up the council records on her datapad. 80 years of human service, thousands of disputes resolved, hundreds of wars prevented. She read through case after case. In each one, humans absorbed anger from all sides. They took the blame when compromises upset people. They worked endless hours. They rarely complained. She scrolled further and found something that made her stomach twist. 3 weeks ago, there had been a special vote. It happened during a session when the human delegation was away on a medical emergency. The motion had passed overwhelmingly. The vote declared human diplomatic service mandatory and permanent. It stated that humanity's natural abilities for mediation made them essential to galactic peace. It required that humans provide negotiators whenever the council demanded them. It essentially made humans into servants, tools to be used whenever needed. Syrah felt sick. She looked around the chamber at the angry faces. Did they know what they had done? Did they care? Meanwhile, in the human embassy on Unity Prime Station, Minjun stood at the window looking out at the stars. Heywan entered quietly. "The secure channel is flooded with messages," she said. "Every species wants to know why we left. Some are angry. Some are threatening us. A few sound confused." "Let them wonder," Minjun said softly. "Was this the right choice?" Heywan asked. "The galaxy is already falling apart without us." Minjun turned to face her. "They voted to enslave us, Heywan. They called it necessary for galactic peace. They said we were naturally suited for this role, as if we were bred for their convenience." "I know," she said quietly. "We are not tools," Minjun continued. "We are people. We helped because we chose to help. But they tried to take away our choice. If we stayed, we would be endorsing our own servitude." Da'un entered then, her expression serious. "Sir, we are receiving messages from human civilians on various council worlds. Some are reporting harassment. They are being blamed for the diplomatic chaos." Minjun closed his eyes briefly. "Begin preparations for evacuation. Any human who wants to leave council space should have that option." "That will look like we are abandoning them completely," Heywan said. "Perhaps that is what they need," Minjun replied. "To see what abandonment really looks like. We gave them 80 years of service. We asked for nothing but respect in return, and they voted to chain us." Outside the window, Unity Prime Station continued its slow rotation. Somewhere on that station, the council was still arguing. The humans were gone, and no one knew how to make peace without them. The silence from humanity would teach the galaxy a lesson, but it would be a painful one. 3 weeks had passed since humanity walked out of the council chamber. In that time, the galaxy had learned what it was like to negotiate without them. The council met again to address the same mining dispute between the Korath Empire and the Thessian Collective. Nothing had changed except that now both sides were angrier. "We will not yield even one asteroid," the Korath delegate declared, his scales bristling with aggression. "Then we will take what is ours by force," the Thessian responded, her tentacles creating aggressive patterns in her tank. The Vrak's chair looked exhausted. Her normally bright carapace had dulled. "Surely we can find common ground. The humans always found a way." "The humans are not here," the Korath said coldly, "and we will not compromise our rightful claim." Other delegates tried to offer solutions, but every suggestion was rejected. No one wanted to give up anything. No one wanted to be the one who compromised first. Without humans to suggest neutral options, every proposal sounded like it favored one side over the other. The meeting ended with both the Korath and Thessian declaring they would begin military mobilization. Defense fleets were moving toward the disputed systems. But it was not just them. Across the galaxy, other conflicts were awakening. The Draxian Consortium and the Pelian Unity had been arguing about trade tariffs for years. Humans had always kept those arguments civil. Now, the Draxians announced an embargo. The Pelians responded by seizing Draxian assets. Threats of war followed. Ancient territorial grudges between the Voth and the Yarna, dormant for decades because human mediators helped maintain peace treaties, suddenly flared up. Border incidents were reported. Ships were fired upon. On Unity Prime Station, the human embassy had become an island of calm in growing chaos. Min-Jun sat in his office, watching news feeds from across council space. Each report brought worse news. His face showed pain, but his resolve remained firm. Haywan entered without knocking. "We have another 73 requests for mediation today. The council is falling apart." "Let me see them," Min-Jun said. She transferred the files to his display. He read through them slowly. Each one was a crisis. Each one would have been easy to handle 3 weeks ago. Now, they were becoming wars. "We could stop this," Haywan said quietly. "We could go back and fix everything." "At what cost?" Min-Jun asked. "Have you forgotten what they did?" Haywan sat down heavily. She looked at her hands. "No, I have not forgotten." Min-Jun pulled up a recording on his screen. It was from 4 weeks ago, a private council meeting. The human delegation had been called away because one of their staff had a medical emergency. They left the meeting, expecting to return. Instead, the council voted without them. In the recording, the Vrax chair called for the vote. "We propose that human diplomatic service be made mandatory and permanent. Humanity will provide mediators whenever the council requires them." "This is necessary for galactic peace," a delegate said. "Humans are naturally suited for this role," another added. "They are patient. They do not seek power. They are perfect for mediation. But should we not ask them first?" That was Sira, the young Quillan delegate. Her voice was small, uncertain. "They will agree," the Vrax chair said confidently. "They always help. It is their nature." The vote passed. 42 species in favor, only 3 against. The Quillan, the small Fenril cluster, and 1 other minor species. Min-Jun stopped the recording. "They decided we had no choice. They decided our nature made us servants." "I know," Haywan whispered. "We helped for 80 years because we believed in peace," Min-Jun continued. "We believed in cooperation between species. We thought we were partners in building something better." "And then they voted to own us," Haywan finished. "Exactly," Min-Jun said. "If we return now, we tell them it was acceptable. We tell them they can decide our purpose for us. We become what they tried to make us. Tools, not people." Da-Un entered the office. "Sir, the situation is worsening. Human civilians on 17 worlds report increased harassment. Some species blame us for the chaos. They say we caused this by leaving." Min-Jun stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see council ships moving in various directions. Military vessels heading toward disputes. Trade ships avoiding dangerous areas. Refugee vessels fleeing war zones. "They blame us for not preventing their wars," he said. "Not themselves for starting them." "Some humans are asking to be evacuated," Da-Un reported. "They feel unsafe." Min-Jun made a decision. "Begin full civilian evacuation. Any human in council space who wants to leave should be brought to human territory. We will not force anyone to stay where they are not welcome." "That is a big step," Haywan said. "It makes this separation more permanent." "Perhaps it needs to be," Min-Jun replied. A priority message alert sounded. It was from Sira, the Quillan delegate. Min-Jun accepted the call. Sira's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and frightened. "Ambassador Park, please. My people are suffering. The Korath and Thessian dispute is disrupting trade routes through our space. We are caught between them. Without human mediation, They will destroy us without even meaning to. Minjun's expression softened. I am sorry for what your people face. Then come back, Sira pleaded. Help us. I cannot, Minjun said gently. The council must learn to solve its own problems. But we will die while they learn, Sira said, tears in her eyes. I know, Minjun said, and the pain in his voice was real. And that breaks my heart. But if we return now, nothing changes. In 5 years or 10 years, this happens again. Better it happens now. How can you say that? Sira asked. How can you watch us suffer? Minjun was quiet for a moment. The council voted to enslave us. They did it believing we would accept it because helping is our nature. They were right that we want to help. But they were wrong that we would accept servitude to do it. Sira stared at him. What vote? The vote making human diplomatic service mandatory. Passed 4 weeks ago, when we were not present to object. Sira's face went pale. She had been there. She had voted against it. But she had not realized the humans knew. We did not tell them we knew, Minjun continued. We simply left. Now the galaxy learns what it asked for. They wanted to force us to serve, so we chose to serve no one. But innocent people are suffering, Sira said. Yes, Minjun agreed. And that is terrible. But we are also people. We also deserve freedom. We also deserve to be asked, not commanded. The call ended. Sira sat alone in her quarters, crying. Back in the human embassy, Minjun returned to watching the news feeds. Every report confirmed the galaxy was fracturing. Without human mediators, species could not find common ground. Conflicts escalated. Peace treaties collapsed. Was this the right choice? Haiwan asked again. I do not know, Minjun admitted. But it was the only choice we could make and still remain free. Outside, Unity Prime Station continued its rotation. The council chamber sat empty. No one wanted to meet because no one knew how to resolve anything. The galaxy was learning a hard truth. Peace was not automatic. It required work. It required compromise. It required someone willing to do the difficult task of helping people find common ground. For 80 years, humans had done that work. They made it look easy, and the galaxy came to believe it was easy. That peace simply happened. Now they knew different, and the lesson was written in gathering warships and breaking treaties. The silence from humanity continued, and the galaxy fractured in response. 6 weeks after humanity withdrew, the galaxy was falling apart. The Korath and Thessian conflict had escalated beyond words. Their fleets faced each other across the disputed mining systems. Small skirmishes had already occurred. Ships on both sides had been damaged. Casualties were reported. Full war seemed days away. Other species were choosing sides. The Draxian Consortium backed the Korath. The Pelian Unity supported the Thessian. Old alliances were activated, new ones were formed. The entire galaxy was dividing into hostile blocks. Economic systems were failing too. Trade disputes that humans once resolved in hours now festered for weeks. Routes closed, embargoes multiplied, goods stopped flowing. Some worlds faced shortages of essential supplies. The smaller, peaceful species suffered most. The Quillen could not get their trade ships through conflict zones. The Fenril cluster's agricultural exports rotted in warehouses because no one would ensure safe passage. Minor species that depended on galactic trade were dying slowly. The council met in emergency session. The chamber that once hosted 47 species now held only 38. 9 species had stopped attending. They saw no point. Nothing ever got resolved. The Vrax chair looked like she had aged decades in 6 weeks. Her carapace was dull and cracked. Her antennae drooped. But she tried to maintain order. We must find a solution to the Korath-Thessian conflict, she said. If they go to war, it will spread. Half the galaxy will be drawn in. Let the Thessians surrender their false claims. the Korath delegate said. He was not even pretending diplomacy anymore. Our claims are valid, the Thessian responded. The Korath are thieves who rely on ancient maps instead of modern law. Perhaps we could divide the disputed territory, suggested a delegate from the Voth. No, both the Korath and Thessian said together. What if we establish a neutral zone, tried another delegate. Unacceptable, the Korath said. We will not surrender our rights, the Thessian agreed. The Vrax chair slumped in her seat. Every suggestion was rejected. No one would compromise. Everyone wanted total victory. This is pointless, the Draxian delegate said. Without human mediators, we cannot function. We should formally request their return. We tried that, the Vrax chair said tiredly. They refused. Then we should demand it, another delegate said. They have obligations. What obligations? A quiet voice asked. Everyone turned. It was Sira, the Quillan delegate. She stood at her small desk, her fur bristling with emotion. What obligations do they have? She repeated louder. They are part of the council, the Draxian said. They must participate. They are participating, Sira said. They attend. They listen. They just do not mediate anymore. That is their right. They are being selfish, the Korath delegate said. They abandon us in our time of need. Our time of need? Sira's voice rose. Do you hear yourself? You are choosing to go to war over mining rights. The humans did not force you. You are doing this yourselves. You are out of line, the Vrax chair said, but without much force. No, Sira said. She pulled up data on the main display. I am telling the truth. I have studied every major council negotiation for the past 80 years. Look at the patterns. Images and charts filled the screens around the chamber. The delegates fell silent, watching. In every dispute, species would stake extreme positions, Sira explained. You would demand everything and offer nothing. You knew humans would find middle ground, so none of you needed to be reasonable. The humans did that work for you. She pulled up more data. Look at this. In 73% of cases, the compromise solution was closer to both sides' actual needs than their stated demands. But you would not propose those compromises yourselves. You made the humans do it. That was their role, a delegate said. No, Sira said firmly. That became their burden. Look at these recordings. She played clips from various negotiations. In each one, humans suggested compromises. In each one, both sides initially rejected the ideas angrily. The humans absorbed that anger. They remained patient. They kept working. Eventually, agreements were reached. See how they take the blame from all sides? Sira said. Both parties leave angry at the mediators. The humans accepted that because they believed in peace. But watch this. She played recordings from social areas on Unity Prime. Delegates from various species talking privately, laughing about human patience, calling it weakness, mocking their inability to take sides, all while depending completely on that same patience to prevent wars. The chamber was absolutely silent now. You used them, Sira said. You depended on them. You needed them. But you never respected them. She pulled up the final piece of evidence, the vote from 6 weeks ago. And then you tried to enslave them, she said quietly. The recording played. Delegates watched themselves vote to make human service mandatory. They heard themselves justify it. Humans are naturally suited for this. They do not mind. It is their purpose. When the recording ended, the silence was crushing. We never asked them if they wanted this role, Sira continued. We just expected it. We took their service for granted. We treated them like translation devices, useful tools that we never thanked. They could have said something, a delegate protested weakly. They did, Sira said. They left. That was their answer. And now look at us. She gestured around the chamber. 6 weeks without them and we are ready to tear the galaxy apart, not because we have to, because we cannot be bothered to compromise on our own, because we never learned how to make peace without someone else doing the hard work for us. The Vrax chair stood slowly. "You are right," she said. Her voice was heavy with shame. "We never asked if they wanted this role. We just expected it. We assumed their kindness was infinite, their patience endless. We were wrong." "This changes nothing," the Korath delegate said. "We still have our dispute." "Then resolve it yourselves," Sira said sharply. "You are grown species with advanced civilizations. Figure it out, or admit that you would rather go to war than do the difficult work of compromise." Several delegates looked away. The truth hurt. "My people are dying," Sira continued, her voice breaking. "Not from war. From the chaos you create because you will not talk to each other like reasonable beings. The Fenril are starving. The Quillen cannot trade. And you know what? The humans are not causing this. You are." She sat down, tears running through her fur. The chamber remained silent for a long time. Some delegates looked ashamed. Others looked angry but had no response. A few looked thoughtful. Finally, a delegate from the Pelian Unity stood. "The Quillen delegate is correct. We have behaved poorly. Perhaps it is time we try to resolve our own disputes." "I do not know how," another delegate admitted. "Then we learn," the Pelian said. "We have examples. 80 years of human mediations to study. We can learn their methods." "It will not be the same," someone said. "No," the Pelian agreed. "It will be harder. It will be slower. We will make mistakes, but it is our responsibility, not humanity's." A small coalition began to form. The Pelian, the Quillen, the Fenril, and several other smaller species. They decided to attempt direct negotiations with the Korath and Thessian, not as a council action, but as concerned species trying to prevent galactic war. It was a tiny step, but it was something. In the human embassy, Min Jun watched the council broadcast. He saw Sira's speech. He saw the shame on some faces and the defiance on others. He saw the small coalition form. "Will it be enough?" Haywan asked. "I do not know," Min Jun said, "but it is a start. They are trying." "At what cost?" Daun asked. "How many will die while they learn?" Min Jun closed his eyes. "Too many. But if we go back now, they learn nothing. The cycle continues. In 10 years, we are here again." "And if they destroy themselves?" Haywan asked. "Then we failed," Min Jun said quietly. "But we failed as teachers, not as servants. There is a difference." Outside, Unity Prime Station continued its rotation. The galaxy balanced on the edge of war, and somewhere, species were learning that peace was not automatic. It was a choice, a difficult one. And they had to choose it themselves. 2 months had passed since humanity withdrew from council negotiations. The galaxy stood at the edge of disaster. Korath and Thessian fleets faced each other in space, hundreds of warships, thousands of crew members. One wrong move would trigger full-scale war, and that war would pull in dozens of other species who had chosen sides. The council met in another emergency session. The chamber felt smaller now. More species had stopped attending. Those who remained looked exhausted and frightened. "We must authorize a peacekeeping force," the Vrax chair said. "If we can position neutral ships between the fleets, we might prevent the first shot." "Who commands this force?" the Draxian delegate asked. "The Pelian Unity Volunteers," said the Pelian representative. "Unacceptable," the Korath delegate said. "The Pelian supports the Thessian. They are not neutral." "Then the Draxians command," suggested another voice. "We support the Korath," a Draxian admitted. "The Thessian would reject us." Round and round the argument went. Every species was already too aligned with one side or the other. There was no neutral party to lead peacekeeping. Without human mediators, they had never developed neutral institutions. What about rules of engagement? Another delegate asked. When can the peacekeepers fire? More arguing. No one could agree. Some wanted peacekeepers to have full authority to stop any aggression. Others feared that power could be abused. Without neutral mediators to help write fair rules, every proposal sounded biased. The meeting was failing. Everyone knew it. They were talking in circles, making no progress, while warships waited for orders to fire. May I address the council? A small voice asked. It was Sierra again. The Quillen delegate stood at her desk. She looked older than she had 2 months ago. The stress showed in her fur and eyes. Please, the Virax chair said. Any ideas would be welcome. Sierra walked to the center of the chamber. She carried a data pad. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady. I have spent the last month researching, she said. I studied every major council negotiation from the past 80 years. I wanted to understand how the humans did it, how they prevented wars, how they found solutions when we could not. She activated her data pad. Information appeared on the main screens. I found patterns, Sierra continued. But I also found something else, something that shames us all. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. No one wanted more shame. They felt enough already. Look at this negotiation from 15 years ago, Sierra said. A recording played. A dispute between the Voth and Yarna over water rights. Both sides were screaming at each other. The human mediator, a woman named Ji Woo Kim, sat between them. She remained calm. She listened to both sides. She asked questions. Watch her face, Sierra said. The delegates watched. They saw Ambassador Kim absorb anger from both sides. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes showed pain. When she suggested a compromise, both sides rejected it angrily. They shouted at her, accused her of bias. She took it all without response. Now watch this, Sierra said. The recording jumped forward. The compromise was eventually accepted. Both sides left the negotiation, and in a private area outside, delegates from Voth and Yarna met. They were laughing. Can you believe she suggested we share the water management? One said. As if we could work together, the other agreed. But it worked, the first said. We both got what we needed. True. But did you see how patient she was? How weak? She just took our anger and never fought back. They laughed together. Then they went back to their ships, satisfied with the agreement. They never knew the human mediator stood around the corner. She heard everything. Tears ran down her face. The recording ended. The council chamber was silent. That is Ambassador Kim, Sierra said softly. She is retired now. I interviewed her for my research. She told me that happened often. You would mock their patience, call their kindness weakness, all while depending on those exact qualities to prevent your wars. She pulled up more examples, recording after recording. Council members in private areas, talking about humans. Sometimes the words were cruel, sometimes just thoughtless, but always dismissive. You smile to their faces, Sierra said. You thank them for their service. Then you laugh at them behind closed doors. You mock the very traits that save your lives. We did not mean it badly, a delegate tried to say. Intention does not matter, Sierra replied. Impact matters. And the impact was that you took them for granted. You used them without respecting them. You drained them without noticing they were suffering. She pulled up medical records. Did you know that 70% of human diplomats develop anxiety disorders? That 50% suffer from severe stress-related illnesses? That their average career length is only 12 years because they burn out? The chamber was absolutely silent. No one had known. No one had asked. You used them up, Sierra said, like fuel in a ship. And when they were depleted, you expected them to keep burning anyway. She showed the final recording. The vote to make human service mandatory. The delegates watched themselves again. But this time, Sira added commentary. "Listen to the words you use," she said. "Humans are naturally suited. They do not mind. It is their purpose. You describe them like tools, like machines, not like people with their own needs and limits." The Vrax chair spoke up. "We thought they enjoyed helping. They always seemed happy to mediate." "Of course they seemed happy," Sira said. "That is what good mediators do. They hide their own feelings to focus on yours. But hiding pain does not mean it does not exist." She showed graphs and statistics. The emotional labor of mediation, the psychological cost of absorbing anger from all sides, the exhaustion of being perpetually neutral, the loneliness of having no one to support you because everyone sees you as a tool, not a person. "For 80 years, humans did this work," Sira said. "They sacrificed their emotional health for galactic peace, and you never once asked if they were okay. You never thanked them properly. You certainly never asked if they wanted to continue." "What should we have done?" a delegate asked. "Asked," Sira said simply. "Thank them meaningfully. Rotate the burden so they were not always the mediators. Learn to do some of this work yourselves. Treat them like partners instead of servants." She pulled up the final data. "And most importantly, never vote to force their service. That was the ultimate insult. After 80 years of voluntary help, you decided you had the right to command them." "We panicked," the Vrax chair admitted. "We cannot function without them. The vote was meant to ensure they would always be available." "By enslaving them?" Sira asked. "Did you not see the contradiction? You depended on their goodwill and kindness, then tried to take away their choice. How did you think they would respond?" The Vrax chair had no answer. Sira looked around the chamber. "The humans are not the problem. We are. We built a galactic order that depended entirely on one species sacrificing themselves for everyone else. And when they got tired, we tried to force them to continue." "What do we do now?" someone asked. "We learn," Sira said. "We learn to negotiate ourselves. We learn compromise. We learn patience. We do the work we expected humans to do for us." "That will take time," a delegate said. "We might not have time." "Then we might fail," Sira said bluntly. "And if we do, it is our failure, not humanity's. They gave us 80 years to learn. We chose not to. Now we pay that price." A delegate from the Fenril cluster stood. "The Quillen delegate is correct. We have no right to demand humanity save us from ourselves. If we want peace, we must build it ourselves." Others began to stand. Slowly, a consensus formed. Not agreement on how to solve the crisis, but agreement on the fundamental truth. They had wronged humanity, and they had to take responsibility for their own peace. "I propose we form a learning council," the Pelian Unity delegate said. "We study human mediation techniques. We train our own mediators. We develop neutral institutions. It will be imperfect at first, but we must try." "Agreed," said the Fenril representative. "The Quillen support this," Sira added. One by one, species agreed. Not all of them. The Korath and Thessian remained silent, still locked in their dispute, but enough agreed to make a start. In the human embassy, Minjun watched the entire broadcast. When Sira finished, he found himself crying. "She understands," he whispered. "Will you go back?" Haywan asked. "Not yet," Minjun said. "They are starting to learn. If we return too soon, they stop learning. But maybe when they are ready, we can help them as partners, not as their servants." The galaxy was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing, and humanity watched, waiting to see if the lesson would take hold. 3 months after humanity withdrew, Sira stood outside the human embassy on Unity Prime Station. She had requested this meeting days ago. Now that she was here, she felt nervous. The door opened. Security Chief Da-Un Song stood there. Her expression was neutral but not unfriendly. "Delegate Sira," Da-Yun said. Ambassador Park is expecting you. Sira followed her inside. The embassy felt quiet, peaceful, so different from the chaos everywhere else on the station. They entered a meeting room. Ambassador Min-Jun Park stood by the window. Deputy Ambassador Hae-Won Choi sat at the table. Both looked at Sira with curiosity. "Thank you for seeing me," Sira said. Her voice trembled slightly. "Please sit," Min-Jun said. His voice was kind but guarded. Sira sat. For a moment she could not speak. Then the words burst out. "I am sorry," she said. "On behalf of those of us who understand what we did wrong, I am so sorry." Min-Jun sat down across from her. "Tell me what you understand." "Everything," Sira said. "We used you. We took you for granted. We mocked your kindness while depending on it. We treated you like tools, not people. And then we tried to enslave you. We were wrong, completely, horribly wrong." "Yes," Min-Jun said simply. "You were. Some species are trying to change," Sira continued quickly. "We formed a learning council. We are studying your mediation techniques. We are training our own diplomats. It is hard. It is so much harder than we thought." "Good," Hae-Won said, not cruelly, but firmly. "It should be hard. Then you will value it." "We do," Sira said. "Believe me, we do. I have been trying to mediate between smaller species, just minor disputes. After 1 week I wanted to quit. The anger, the blame, the impossible demands from all sides. I do not know how you did it for 80 years. "Practice," Min-Jun said, "and a belief that it mattered." "It did matter," Sira said. "We just never told you that properly." Silence filled the room. Outside the window, Unity Prime Station continued its endless rotation. "How is the Korath Thessian situation?" Min-Jun asked. "Bad," Sira admitted, "but not as bad as it could be. The Learning Council convinced them to accept a temporary ceasefire while we attempt mediation. It is not working well. Neither side trusts us. We are not neutral enough. We do not have the skills, but we are trying." "That is something," Min-Jun said. "It is not enough," Sira said. "People are still suffering. My people cannot trade safely. The Fenril face food shortages. Smaller species are being crushed between larger powers. I came here to ask—" She stopped, took a breath, started again. "I did not come to ask you to return," she said. "You have every right to stay away. We wronged you. But I wanted to ask, how did you do it? How did you keep believing in us for 80 years when we treated you so poorly?" Min-Jun was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. "We helped because we believed in what the council could be," he said. "Not what it was, but what it could become. We saw species from different worlds, with different biology and cultures trying to live together peacefully. That dream was worth serving." "But we betrayed that dream," Sira said. "Yes," Min-Jun agreed. "When you voted to force our service, you told us that you did not see us as partners in that dream. You saw us as means to achieve it. Tools, as you said." "How can we fix this?" Sira asked. "Is it even possible?" Hae-Won spoke up. "That depends. Why did you really come here?" Sira met her eyes. "Honestly, part of me wanted to ask you to come back and save us, to fix everything, to make the pain stop." She paused. "But I know that is wrong. That is the same mistake we made before. You cannot want peace for us more than we want it for ourselves." "Exactly," Hae-Won said. "Every compromise we brokered, we absorbed someone's anger. We accepted that because we thought it would help you learn to make peace. But you never learned. You just expected us to always be there." "I understand that now," Sira said. "It took doing the work myself to understand. Mediation is exhausting. Taking blame from all sides is painful. Staying neutral when you have opinions is hard. And doing it day after day, year after year, with no real appreciation." She shook her head. "I lasted 1 week before I had a breakdown. You did it for 80 years. Da-Un spoke for the first time. And you never once asked if we were okay. None of you did. No, Sira whispered. We did not. We just assumed you were fine. That this work did not hurt you. It hurt very much, Da-Un said quietly. We just hid it well. That was part of the job. More silence. Outside, a council ship docked at the station. Inside this room, 3 humans and 1 Quillen sat with 80 years of history between them. I want to tell you something, Minjun said finally. We will return to the council, but on new terms. Sira looked up, hope and fear mixed in her expression. Not as designated mediators, Minjun continued. As equal partners, we will help teach mediation skills to other species. We will serve on a rotating basis with others. We will not solve every problem for you, but we will help you learn to solve them yourselves. That is more than we deserve, Sira said. Perhaps, Minjun said, but it is what the galaxy needs. We still believe in the dream of species cooperating peacefully. We just need the structure to change so we are not bearing the entire burden alone. When? Sira asked. When you are ready, Haiwan said. When the Council votes to eliminate the mandatory service law. When neutral institutions are established so we are not the only mediators. When other species have trained diplomats ready to share the work. We are working on all of that, Sira said. The Learning Council has proposals. Good, Minjun said. Send them to us. We will review them, offer suggestions, but you must do the work of implementing them. We will not do it for you. I understand, Sira said. She stood. Thank you for listening, for being willing to return eventually, for not giving up on us completely. We have not given up, Minjun said. We stepped back. There is a difference. Sometimes the greatest act of compassion is letting people learn to help themselves. Sira left the embassy. As she walked through Unity Prime Station, she thought about those words. She passed the council chamber. Inside, she could hear voices. They were arguing, but more constructively than before. Learning. 6 months later, the council chamber looked different. New structures were in place. A council of reconciliation had been established with representatives from 7 species, including humans and Quillen. Mediation training centers operated on 12 worlds. Diplomatic protocols had been rewritten. Ambassador Minjun Park stood at the center of the chamber. Beside him stood Sira and representatives from the Pelion Unity and Fenril cluster. Together they co-chaired the Reconciliation Council. But they were not mediating today. They were coaching. At the main table, Korath and Thessian delegates sat across from each other. Between them sat a newly trained mediator from the Voth species. She looked nervous but determined. Remember, Minjun said gently to the Voth mediator, you are not here to solve their problem. You are here to help them solve it themselves, ask questions, clarify misunderstandings, but let them do the work of compromising. The Voth mediator nodded. She turned to the Korath delegate. Can you explain your primary concern about the mining rights? The Korath began speaking. The Thessian started to interrupt. The Voth mediator raised a tentacle. Please, she said, let him finish. You will have your turn. It was clumsy, imperfect, but it was working. Slowly, the two sides began actually listening to each other instead of just shouting. Minjun watched from the side. He did not intervene, even when the mediator made small mistakes, even when progress stalled. This was how species learned. By doing, by failing, by trying again. After 2 hours, the Korath and Thessian agreed to a mineral survey of the disputed systems, conducted by a neutral third party. It was not a complete solution, but it was progress, real progress that they made themselves. The Voth mediator looked exhausted. She came over to where Minjun stood. "That was so hard," she said. "How do you make it look easy?" "Practice," Minjun said with a slight smile, and accepting that it is never actually easy. "You did well for your first major mediation." "I wanted to just tell them the answer," the Voth admitted. "I could see an obvious compromise." "But if you had told them, would they have accepted it?" Sira asked. "Probably not," the Voth said. "They needed to find it themselves." "Exactly," Sira said. "That is the lesson we all had to learn." In the following months, more mediators were trained. More species took turns facilitating negotiations. The work was distributed across dozens of diplomats instead of falling entirely on humans. It was messier than the old system, slower, less efficient, but it was healthier, more sustainable, more fair. Minjun stood in the same spot where he had announced humanity's withdrawal 6 months earlier. He looked around the chamber. He saw Korath and Thessian delegates talking calmly. He saw the Voth mediator helping 2 minor species resolve a trade dispute. He saw dozens of species learning to cooperate. "Was it worth it?" Haiwan asked beside him. "Yes," Minjun said. "Look at them. They are doing the work. Not perfectly, but genuinely. They are not waiting for us to save them. Some of them resent us still," Daun noted. "They think we abandoned them." "Some people will always prefer being saved to saving themselves," Minjun said. "That is their choice. But the galaxy is learning that peace is not something you can outsource. It is something you have to build and maintain yourself." A young human diplomat approached. His name was Sung-Ho Lee, fresh from the new diplomatic academy humanity had established. "Ambassador Park," he said, "the Fenrir-Draxian trade negotiation is stuck. They are requesting advice." "What do you suggest?" Minjun asked. "Maybe ask them to list their core needs versus their wants," Sung-Ho said uncertainly. "Good start," Minjun said. "Go help them. But remember, you are teaching them to fish, not giving them fish." Sung-Ho nodded and left. Minjun watched him go. A new generation of diplomats, human and non-human both, learning together, sharing the burden. The galaxy still had problems. Conflicts still arose. But now those conflicts were met by a system where many species shared the work of peace, where humans were respected partners, not exhausted servants, where compromise was a skill being taught and learned, not a miracle only humans could perform. Minjun looked out the great windows of Unity Prime Station. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Out there, countless species lived on countless worlds. They would argue. They would disagree. They would face crises. But now they knew something important. Peace was not automatic. It required work. Patient, difficult, often thankless work. And that work belonged to everyone, not just to one species bearing it all. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give is not solving someone's problems for them. It is stepping back and teaching them to solve those problems themselves. Humanity had given the galaxy 80 years of service. Now they were giving them something more valuable, the knowledge that they could do this work themselves, that they did not need saviors, they needed partners. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, the galaxy was learning to be just that. Partners in peace. Together,